Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello everybody. Let's go. We got a 76ers Sixers wrap-up show ready to go with you right now. We got Sam Osher, Sean Bernard, of course, on the road at the T-Wolves. And I won't lie to you, I did not think they were coming home with a victory. That's for darn sure. Sean Bernard, your first initial thoughts are?
Yeah, I just held down the fort yesterday ranting and raving about how pathetic this team looked. And the thing that I got to say right now is they deserve credit for just looking themselves in the mirror saying last night was not good enough. That I'm Tyrese Maxey, I'm VJ Edgecombe, and I'm putting forth a better performance. And that's exactly what they did. They walked into Minnesota, delivered a big boy grown-up performance, and got a win. That's not an easy place to play. That's not an easy team to be. And I have a ton of respect for this just being the mature, grown-up sort of vibes win that was necessary based on how things were trending.
This season could have gone one and two
Sam
ways.
Osher, 135, 108.
This season could have gone one and two ways really quickly. It could have got ugly just based off of last night's game and how they've kind of been trending over the last few weeks without Joel Embiid. And this was, like Sean said, this was a character win for this team. I mean, this is a group that showed a ton of effort tonight. Yeah, they shot incredibly, 57% from three. You're not really ever going to shoot like that in most games. But it was the effort. They were flying out in closeouts, diving on the floor for loose balls. This was a team that knew they were desperate and actually played desperate. And this is what's so frustrating about this season is that where's this on a consistent nightly basis? Because you see last night's effort and you see tonight's effort, and it looks like two different teams. Forget the talent. I'm talking pure effort. Yeah. And that's why it's so frustrating on a night-to-night basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. 100% there. And like it was right from the opening tip that I do think the biggest frustration that I circle back to with last night being a glowing example of, and they've had others, that there's been these also nightmare losses that they just have not shown up. These aren't X's and O's adjustments. These are look yourself in the mirror and be better adjustments. And that's what I saw today. Maxey would refuse to lose that game, that there was this, I'm setting the standard once again, that I, was incredibly over the moon angry, talk about how that had faded as the season had progressed, that standard that was set, that we're going to find ways to win games when Joel Embiid is not here. That mentality that was so prevalent in the early part of the season had kind of dissipated. I saw it again tonight, that I saw that locked in. Does not matter who we're playing. We're focused on our game and finding a way. And the effort was off the charts. VJ Edgecombe knocking down 6 threes. Tyrese Maxey, 39 points. Dominic Barlow flying to the glass. Quentin Grimes, who I've been hypercritical of, finally showing me something. That was the best game that I've seen from him in months, not just as a scorer, but as a playmaker as well, getting downhill, leveraging the little kickoffs to Andre Drummond. It was a great game by Quentin Grimes, and that's just the version of him that needs to be here on a consistent basis.
Sam, back to you. 135-108 final score. 76ers over the T-Wolves here. And again, when we start to talk about the things that stood out to the most as far as Sixers are concerned, bottom line is like you saw production, but T-Wolves are no joke. So what happened there as far as defensively? How did the Sixers limit the T-Wolves for you?
Well, I thought they had a great game plan coming in, and that was really offensively more than anything, where the Sixers getting to the rim. They shot 57% from three, but only 38% of their shots were threes. So they had a good balance, and they were quality looks from three. And how they did that was attack downhill, get to the rim, get to the rim, get to the rim. That's because for the Wolves, there was no Rudy Gobert and no Naz Reid. They're two best real rim protectors.
And foul trouble to the big men that were in there. Both Behringer and Julius Randle picked up 2 fouls in the first quarter. They pretty much had nothing in the interior. They rolled with who was playing the 5 at that point. I want to say it was I forget who they rolled with. They went super small to close in that first half, so they had nothing as far as rim deterrent.
Exactly. And that was the Sixers' plan coming in because they knew that. They knew there was going to be no Rudy Gobert or Naz Reid. So what the Sixers are doing is they're saying, let's get downhill, get 2 feet in the lane. That's going to collapse the defense, create open threes. So these were quality looks. The Sixers, the whole plan was get downhill. There's nobody could stay in front of VJ Edgecombe or Tyrese Maxey, even though Anthony Edwards was the primary defender on Tyrese Maxey a lot of the night. And he's a really good defender, but he was no match for Tyrese Maxey. He was getting downhill. VJ Edgecombe was getting down. Quentin Grimes was even getting downhill. Kelly Oubre. And all those guys, once you get downhill, you collapse defense, put the defense in rotation, get quality threes, and they were drilling those quality threes, which is important for them. Also, Sixers had 31 assists tonight. Yeah. It's pretty rare where they have 30-plus assists games. They haven't had one since February 2nd against the Clippers. So that's because they were getting downhill, collapsing the D, kicking the shooters, And that's kind of what propelled the Sixers to shoot as well as they did and have the offensive performance they did.
Sean Bernard loses their 4 straight. Got the Pacers coming up, Miami coming up. I think the 20th most difficult schedule from now until the end of the season as far as the NBA is concerned. There's plenty of opportunity to build something positive up, obviously. It comes down to Joel Embiid. Where are we at right now with Embiid? What's the latest? Is he playing next week or next time against the Pacers? Where are we at?
Yeah, there seemed to be optimism that he would have been available for today, that he did travel on this road trip right there. He was present on the bench, but we're back in the cycle of sort of this guarded information from the Sixers. Now, we've heard loud and clear this mentality shift that he's only playing when he is for sure ready to play, when he is capable, but there is no more going out in the court when you're 65%, 75%, whatever the case may be, that there is the long-term mindset in mind here. But there is also no clarity in when exactly that will be. So I do think there's a world where, like, next game he's available and can step on the court. It's encouraging, at least, that he has been on the court as far as a practice capacity right there. But we're not exactly getting clarity from the Sixers outside of the standpoint of he's been ruled out. There's seemingly some level of optimism that every game he has a chance. But once again, this is 5 straight that he has missed. So we'll see where the chips do fall. I do lean towards it's probably sooner rather than later that we do see him, but we don't really have any information in either direction.
I think it was Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I think it was Thursday night after the game where the Hawks, they lost to the Hawks. And a lot of the Sixers players were saying, like, we need Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
Edgecombe said it a bunch. He was like, there's no Embiid out there. He's a walking 30, just his gravity, how much he makes it easier for us. Tyrese Maxey was saying, I've had to play 3 different roles and there's no Embiid. So these guys are so frustrated. But tonight was such an important win because you finally saw that even when Embiid's out, they're going to have the mindset of we have to take care of this ourselves. We have to execute the game plan. We have to play with unmatched effort because we're usually not going to be as talented as the opponents without Paul George and without Joel Embiid, just from a collective standpoint. And so they finally had that mindset of, like, who cares if Joel Embiid is playing or not? We have to approach every single game, every single day, that staff and this team is, as we expect Joel Embiid not to be playing. We cannot be relying on a really unreliable player. And that's kind of what you saw tonight, which I think was a big step forward for them. And we'll see whether he comes back and he's playing once a week and then has plays for 2 weeks and misses another 2 weeks, which is going to mess up their whole flow again. But tonight was a good step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. The guy I got to sing the loudest praises for that is directly Tyrese Maxey, man. That was the version of Tyrese Maxey that I was out here pumping my chest at the start of the season, that this guy's in the conversation for the best guards in the league. This guy's a true all-NBA caliber of talent. It's been a couple games since we've seen that version from him, and it was there from day one. I mean, the 39 points, yamming on Anthony Edwards, letting him hear all about it. The 8 assists, which it has been quite a bit of time in which we've seen that level of playmaking from him. He looked like the leader of a franchise in the way that it is built up for him to become, that there's been this transition of power this season for him to become that guy. He looked like it by every single definition.
How about that third quarter?
Yeah.
What a third quarter stretch. The Sixers won the third quarter tonight, which they won it 26-20. So they're actually playing better in the third quarter. But from Maxey alone, I mean, you talk about the dunk, how he was pulling up from 35 feet and just drilling stuff. The Timberwolves were on drop pick and roll coverage for a lot of that game. It's like, you cannot play drop against Tyrese Maxey. You have to be at the level. So it was pretty poor by them. And that's what they do with Rudy Gobert, which is obviously a different big. But I thought they would switch the strategy when you have Rudy Gobert on the bench. So Maxey was just having field day coming off of ball screens. But even some dimes that he had, that was like one of the more incredible 4 or 5 minute stretches that I've seen from Maxey all season.
But you also, to kind of dig in on that point, you talk about drop coverage. That's the Tyrese Maxey problem in a nutshell right there. Is you're right. You cannot defend a caliber of a shooter in drop coverage, but you also can't defend a caliber of a guy with that level of speed by going over screens because you're toast in either direction. And that's
you can contain. Like, usually teams will come to the level. It's different when Embiid's the screener and the talent that he brings and the skill set he has, but you can contain quite a bit when you're coming to the level versus drop. But the Wolves are actually good in drop and fighting over screens when Rudy Gobert's there. It's a whole different equation without.
Yeah. No, for sure. But my point being here is that's the predicament that Maxey creates for teams. It's that threat of the shot with that threat of the speed is such a dynamic combination. And when he has both cooking, and tonight that was clearly an example of that, he looks like one of the most unguardable players in basketball. And I do want to make sure I circle. I think that might have been the nastiest dunk of Tyrese Maxey's career. on Anthony Edwards and letting him hear all about it tonight.
And VJ Edgecombe too. VJ
Sure.
Edgecombe was 6 for 7 from 3. Like that.
Yeah.
That's the backcourt partner. He had 24 points. Kelly Oubre had 18. Quentin Grimes had 19. So
yeah,
all
and
these
7
guys,
assists for Grimes.
Yeah, all these guys were getting downhill, kicking to shooters. This is what you want from that guard trio, right? You trade Jared McCain. Obviously, the fan base is very upset about that for emotional reasons, I guess you could say. But
and logical.
We can talk about what he's doing with the Thunder with no Jalen Williams, no Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, no Alex Caruso, all these guys. But this is what you want from that guard trio, just guys who can create for themselves and get downhill.
Yeah, and to interject on the McCain point, because these are forever going to be connected in the conversation. I think for me, the biggest crime is not just giving up on Jared McCain, which in a vacuum I still disagree with. What is the bigger crime is doing nothing after the fact. The inactivity to do anything, to just trade away talent without bringing anything in is forever what I'll hold over Daryl Morey's head. So that's going to be connected to the McCain conversation because obviously that was the trade that they did make right there. But I would feel very differently about this entire conversation if there was a guy that returned in that deal, or if after the fact there was another trade that was brought in, but ultimately that was not what went down.
None whatsoever. It's like, dude, bring anything back and it's a whole different ballgame. But bottom line is now McCain is balling out for OKC too.
Yeah, he's looked terrific.
Well. First off, they did bring somebody back. They brought back Campaign. Let's just not discount Campaign.
The Adriatic League,
right? You're right.
And he's playing well for the Thunder. They're using him much better than Nick Nurse every day. He's also playing because
he's playing well.
Yeah.
Okay, but he's playing well and playing because there's no Shai, there's no Jalen Williams, Alex Caruso's barely
playing. No Joel Embiid either.
He didn't play today.
He's playing well.
Yeah, have the Sixers never been without their star player?
Dude, if he missed every shot, darn well you'd be like, he stinks. He's making every shot. He's 3 from 6 for downtime. So he led the OKC Thunder in scoring for a game. Regardless.
But the point
Come
is,
on, man.
But the point is, I'm not discounting he's playing well. Of course he's playing well for them.
The
point is, he won't really be in the rotation when they're actually healthy.
Well, that's a mistake because Quentin Grimes hasn't scored 20. How long, Sean?
December 5th.
Thank you.
He played well tonight. I don't think 20 should be the benchmark. He had 19. He played really well tonight, efficient, was getting guys open as a creator, playmaker. He played well tonight. Let's not.
I think Jared McCain will be better than Quentin Grimes.
He absolutely will be. I think there's a case he is right now.
Right now, you'd rather have Quentin Grimes as your top bench guard than Jared McCain.
But the other problem,
who's cheaper? Jared
McCain by a comfortable margin. And
by
the way,
that's irrelevant for just this season because Quentin Grimes is a free agent after this season.
Relevant this offseason.
It's all relevant.
It's relevant this offseason because Quentin Grimes is a free agent then. So we'll see what kind of numbers.
I would much rather Jared McCain than Quentin Grimes as far as the money we're talking about.
In the future, sure. Right now, the rest of this season, Quentin Grimes is a better, more valuable player on both ends.
But I circle back to the argument should not have to be one or the other. That you had both of these guys and you punted on one for no reason. That last night was a better example of that, but this team still lacks offensive creators. They just don't have enough guys that can generate things. And Jared McCain, for the flaws that he does have, he absolutely does have as a player. He can do that at a higher level. The relocation, the movement, he does things that no one on the Sixers roster can do. And that was a decision we just don't need that. Now,
he also wasn't doing it. I mean, this turned into Jared McCain trade podcast. The trade happened weeks ago, but he also wasn't doing it for the Sixers. Maybe that's a Nick Nurse thing, but
it certainly is. It certainly is a Nurse.
Yeah. I'm not discounting that.
Jared McCain podcast get clicks. I'm just wondering.
It did. Sure. It always does. But Jared McCain wasn't doing that stuff on the Sixers, and that's partly Nick Nurse. But Nick Nurse didn't like him. Also, sometimes players go to different situations and they just feel like rejuvenated and refreshed. Sure. And he's playing with a whole new confidence. Even when he was playing, and even when he was playing well for those last few games as a Sixer, it never felt like he had any confidence in his shot. The relocation I even think was there as much. He certainly didn't have confidence as a creator. We know he's a terrible defender. So maybe it never was going to happen again for the Sixers. And the Sixers kind of knew that. And sometimes that just happens. You need a new location to kind of regain your confidence again. And maybe that's happened.
It's also a two-way street that it's hard to find a flow as a player and find a rhythm as a player when every missed jumper you're yanked out of the game,
For
which was
sure.
kind of the case for McCain. For now, to circle it back and bring it about this active Sixers team, I do have a couple other points I did want to bring up for tonight. Number one, Trendon Watford is out of the rotation, and this is now back-to-back nights that he has not played. A little bit surprised by that because this is a guy that I thought was going to grow into like a huge contributor for this Sixers team. I think sort of the conclusion that I've come to, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, Sam, because I know you're a big Watford guy. I think the idea of Trendon Watford is a lot better than the actuality of Trendon Watford. That when you think of a big man or a guy with size that can handle, that can play make, that can bring the ball up and create for others, that in principle is excellent. When he does not have the threat of being a legitimate scorer, which Watford does not, and when he isn't really like he kind of is just a drive and kick to the perimeter guy, when that's all you bring to the table, it's pretty easy to kind of pick up ways to guard. But what was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is interesting that he's out of the rotation. He's a real big ghost coverage candidate because he can't shoot, and it's kind of tough to figure out where to line him up because I do think he has value as a ball handler, right?
Mhm.
I think he has value as a ball handler as we lose Brace here, who's dealing with some Wi-Fi issues in the hotel in Hilton and on City Ave because he has radio duties in the morning on 97.5 The Fanatic. Him and Ray Dunn will be there at 10 a.m. But back to Trent Watford, he has value as a ball handler and as a creator. But when you don't need him in those roles, when you have Quentin Grimes playing as well as he is, you have VG Edgecombe, you have Tyrese Maxey. It's like, where do you kind of put him? Because he can't spread the floor. Like I said, you can play a lot of ghost coverage a lot against him, which you've seen teams do. Is he go in the dunker spot? Then, like, how do you play Dominic Barlow? So there's kind of a lot of replicas, I guess, on the team for the role that he should be playing, and you don't really need him on this group when you have the revelation that Dominic Barlow is, and when you have the guards that they have. So I get why Nick Nurse is struggling to find a role for him, and he really wasn't playing that well when he was out there. Like, I still think he's a good player. He's a good driver, finisher. He's a connector. The other thing is, I thought Jabari Walker played really well last night, and he can play a different role than Trent Watford, but I think the Sixers need more of a Jabari Walker role when Embiid's out. And Jabari Walker, there's nothing on the stat sheet that will tell you he played well, but as a connector, as just making really smart decisions all night, he was a +7. I thought and I don't really love plus minus, but still was a +7. Almost everyone on the Sixers was pretty good in the plus minus department today. But I think Jabari Walker played really well. The last point about Trent Watford is he's only really a valuable player when he's paired with Embiid. Like, we saw a ton when it was Joel Embiid and Trent Watford. They were running ball screens, and Trent Watford was the ball handler, and that's when you saw value with him with paired with Joel Embiid. And Nick Nurse got pretty creative with that, running like ball screens at the elbows and all these different locations on the floor. So I thought that was a good sign for Trent Watford alongside Joel Embiid. Embiid's out. I don't really see a need for Watford in this rotation.
Yeah, I'm certainly not arguing with the decision by Nick Nurse. I think it made sense. It's just kind of surprising me that this is how the season has gone based on what my expectations were for him coming into the season. That I did think this was going to be a guy that played a really significant role. I still like the chemistry that he has with Maxey, and one of the things that you and I have both harped on is the concept of getting Maxey off ball a little bit more and having guys being able to create looks for him. But I don't think Watford has truly been the solution. I think he's a very high level like transition player. Whenever the game's in the half court, it's tough for you to figure out what the role is, what is the niche is that he can impact things there. Now, sort of connected to this point, they also closed the half, and we didn't get to see what the actual closing lineup would have been given the what the deficit was in that game. But closing the first half, they changed with a little bit of a new unit. Dominic Barlow playing the 5, and they rolled with Grimes, Maxey, Oubre, and Edgecombe out there. So going small with Barlow as the 5-man, obviously increasing pace. And by the way, hat tip to Barlow, who sneaky has become one of their best transition players in terms of putting the ball on the deck and taking it coast to coast himself. That's not something we saw for the most of the start of the season. He's doing that at a very regular rate of late. But what was your thoughts on that kind of 5-man unit there?
Great transition player and really good lineup use by Nick Nurse because the Wolves didn't have Rudy Gobert or Naz Reid. They didn't have much rim protection. That was a small team. Let me check the rebounding battle real quick. But the Sixers actually are tied in the rebounding battle. But for much of that game, the Sixers were leading the rebounding battle. And this is a bad rebounding team for the Sixers. But again, no Rudy Gobert, no Naz Reid. So the Sixers had an opportunity to take advantage of that and go small because they didn't need to match the Wolves' height. They weren't going to get killed on the offensive glass when the Wolves were down two of their most important players. So I really like that lineup. And Dominic Barlow's been great. I also want to say, Andre Drummond and Adem Bona are never going to be Joel Embiid. The combination of those two guys are never going to be able to replicate anything that Embiid provides on both ends. But they've been pretty solid. They've been pretty solid, even though on the Hawks game Thursday night and tonight, just in terms of rim protection, rebounding, rim running. I thought the duo between those two have been solid as like a backup center duo that needs to play more minutes when Embiid's out.
Yeah, it's interesting. First off, I give Drummond credit for being far better this year than was the case last year. That I really thought there was a case coming in the season where he was completely cooked and this was a waste of a roster spot right there. He's certainly been better than was the case last year. He still has the same limitations that he always had. I think he's played within the box of who he is as a basketball player a little bit more, with the exception of his commitment to being a corner three-point shooter, which is a little bit too much, although I don't think he attempted one tonight. So props to Andre for that one right there. Bona is kind of an interesting cat with it because you see these like 2-minute flashes where I'm like, this is everything I want in a backup center. This is perfect right there. The athleticism, the timing, the block shots, the catching lobs. And then there's times where he's completely off that, where he's committing stupid fouls, where he's, just too energy, fouling 30 feet from the basket here. It's worth sticking with to see if you can polish that out. But I kind of feel myself on both ends of the spectrum with Bona a little bit more than I would like to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, his ceiling is a backup center for me.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and he's still young. He's still playing decent amount, like still getting reps under him. But I agree with you where he has a lot of potential. It's the rebounding, the rim protection, like do your fundamental roles as a center where you don't play outside of yourself, which sometimes I think we kind of see. But I think he's been pretty solid. And Andre Drummond too, like 9 rebounds, 6 points tonight. Only attempts 3 shots, but has a pretty solid impact on the game. Like I said, pretty good center duo considering Embiid's out. And like you just need guys to fill up a traditional center role because everything you do is going to change when Embiid's out.
Yeah, for sure right there. Do you have any gut feeling on when we see Joel Embiid again? I know Brace brought up the question. I didn't really have an answer for him there. Any feeling that you're thinking right now?
Never. I don't know. Like there's obviously he's going to play again this season. There's no reason to hope that Embiid's going to come back in a meaningful time frame. There's no reason to hope that he's going to, once he does come back, play an extended period of time. There's no reason to hope he'll be healthy for the playoffs. It's like, what are we doing with the Joel Embiid conversation? It's just a pointless conversation at this point. He warps so much energy. His absence warps so much energy out of the entire Sixers team, which was what we've seen, which is why they went on this 4-game losing streak before the big win tonight.
No, it's not because they played bad. Like that. That's where I stick my foot down here. You're right in terms of the styles change. You're right that when you don't have one of the top 15 players in basketball, dude, who won an MVP award, you're going to be a worse basketball team. It's not acceptable to me for that to just be, we don't have Joel Embiid, we're going to lose. I thought we were past that, and that's what's returned.
But we're not past that. That's the point.
Well, we should be past it from that being a mentality. They don't have to live and die with whether or not he's here, and this should be said in a positive tone because tonight is what we saw is what I want to see from that, is that this team still can beat legitimate good basketball teams, and they proved that tonight. But that has to be the mentality on like an every game basis, and to me, that's far more on this team than on Joel Embiid.
Tonight was an anomaly, for being honest. Like VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey combined for 63 points. That's not going to happen most nights. They shot 57% from 3. They're not that good of a 3-point shooting team. Tonight, and the Wolves were down 2 of their top 4 or 5 players. So tonight was a rare night. This roster isn't that good without Joel Embiid. And you can say it's not a valid excuse anymore to claim that his absence warps a lot of energy and enthusiasm, if you want to say, and effort out of the Sixers team. You can say it's not a valid excuse, but it's true. It's what we've seen for over the last 2 months with the Embiid games where Embiid plays and the games where Embiid sits. So whether it's a valid excuse or not, it's where they're at. And it's where they were last season. It's why last season got derailed. But that's where they're at. And you can say it's a coaching thing, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you. But it's where we're at there, that when Embiid is in and out and then plays for 2 weeks and then can't play, it warps a lot of energy. And it's hard to blame them. They don't know day in and day out whether Embiid is going to be playing. They don't know what style of basketball they're going to play because Embiid doesn't even really know until the game, the day of. And that's tiring. It's exhausting. So you can say it's not a valid excuse, but I completely understand from the players and coaching staff's perspective of why this is so frustrating to deal with, because they don't know how they're going to operate as a basketball team, as an offense, night in and night out, because they don't know if Joel Embiid's going to play night in and night out.
Yeah, I mean, there's varying degrees of this. Like Nick Nurse, I accept zero excuse for that. That you, as a head coach, have to have a when we have Joel Embiid and when we don't have Joel Embiid plan. That's your job. You should have that on an every night basis. That should be the role. And I think there's certainly been occasions this year where they've been caught off guard expecting Joel Embiid to play. He hasn't, and they've had no game plan, no answer, no backup strategy for how that game's going to go down. And we've seen the results of those. Tyrese Maxey's guy certainly feels sympathetic that his role changes in a massive way, that when Joel Embiid is there and when he's not. I respect the way he put this team on his back tonight, that's the version of Tyrese that needs to be there when Joel Embiid is not available. I just don't accept it from a team-wide standpoint of that being an acceptable mindset of Joel's who sinks this team when he's not there.
But it's true. It's true though, and it's clear when you watch the games. You can say it's not a valid excuse, but it's very clear that they obviously miss Joel Embiid. Yeah, the effort thing is a whole different conversation. That should never change when Embiid's off the floor or on the floor. And that is something that I think people are really critical about Nick Nurse. Yeah. It's like when you have a game like tonight, where is the effort on a consistent basis? Where is the consistency that you see the teams like the Celtics play, who never take possessions off, never take games off? You constantly see the Sixers stoop down to poor to their worst competition, like you see with the Pelicans, like you saw with the Nuggets game a few weeks ago. And that's a reflection on the coaching staff. It just is. There's no two ways around it. That doesn't happen. Ime Udoka, you can criticize his offense a lot, but from an effort standpoint and a competitive standpoint, that team never takes plays off. The Celtics never take plays off. And that's really, to me, you can say X's and O's, this and that. It's a copycat league. Everybody knows what everybody's running for the most part. The real coaches who are great, you can tell by their players' effort on a night-to-night basis. And the Sixers just don't have that. So if you want to kill Nick Nurse for anything, that's what I think Nick Nurse deserves the most criticism for.
Yeah, no, I think that is spot on. I think that is 100% fair. And I certainly think that they're like connected conversations for like this readiness and this motivation or whatever. I kind of think they're one and the same for the nights that they do come out flat. Now, obviously, you're saying this is an anomaly right here. What about tonight is something that needs to carry forth into the rest of the season?
I mean, without Joel Embiid, this backcourt has to play at this level. You're not going to have VG Edgecombe shooting 6 for 7 from 3. Like Maxey, as great as he's playing, he's not going to drop 40 most nights. But you do need this backcourt to, number one, create the way they were, which starts with getting downhill the way they were tonight. That's why everything opened up. It's because they were getting downhill at an exceptional level and opening so much up for the rest of this team. So it really just has to start with this backcourt. And then you're going to need Kelly Oubre and Quentin Grimes and these guys to just shoot well. Like this team is you're not going to shoot 57% from 3 every night, but you're going to have to become a reliable 3-point shooting team. And the rebounding I thought was better tonight. Again, Wolves were missing 2 of their best rebounders, which is why. But the rebounding I thought was better tonight. And it's just going to have to be this backcourt carrying them on a possession-by-possession basis and just getting out in transition. They forced a ton of turnovers. I think the Wolves had 20 turnovers, which was really good. When you have a lot of those live ball turnovers, you don't have to set up into your half-court offense. You just go and go and go and get some transition points, which I think the Sixers did well tonight. So it's really those things, but it's going to have to be this backcourt playing at an incredible level by getting downhill and creating for themselves and others without Joel Embiid. That's going to be the key moving forward.
Yeah, no, I think that is spot on right there. That Tyrese Maxey, for all this conversation, all the buzz that I've hyped up and many have about him being one of the true best guards in the sport, it's time to walk the walk. You have to carry that momentum of what you built up in the first half of the season. Now, looking ahead on the schedule a little bit here, they face the Pacers on Tuesday, the Miami Heat on Thursday, and the Boston Celtics on Sunday. We'll keep it to those 3 right there. What are fair expectations for those matchup? I think they got to go 2-1. They have to beat this Heat team.
They do have to beat this Heat team, mostly because of how the standings shake up right now.
Correct.
The Sixers, after the win tonight, the Sixers are half a game ahead of the Magic. Sixers are in 6th place. Half a game ahead of the Heat. The Sixers are in 6th place. The Heat are in 7th place. The Magic are in 8th place. Sixers are half a game ahead of the Heat and 1 game ahead of the Magic. So this Heat Sixers game this week very well could decide who's going to be in the play-in and who's not going to be. And that's really the goal right now, is just for the Sixers to avoid the play-in and weather the storm until, if, whenever Joel Embiid comes back. So this is a huge game against the Heat. Pacers too is on their schedule. They're trying to lose basketball games. I mean,
Gotta be a win.
what happened to Tyrese Halliburton this week? The shingles? Jesus, that guy cannot catch a break. The Pacers has to be a win. That would be probably the worst loss of the season, worse than the Pelicans, worse than the Nuggets, worse than some of these other disastrous losses. They have to beat the Pacers, no questions asked. And then you have a pretty huge game, Sunday night basketball against the Celtics a week from now, in a game where a lot of people are floating the idea that Jason Tatum could return. So that's another great measuring stick. Whether Embiid's back, if he's back, it would be a really good measuring stick against one of the best teams in the East. So I'm with you. 2-1 would be a great week. Anything less than that is not so great.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And my final thought that I have a hard time watching Anthony Edwards and VJ Edgecombe face off with each other and not feel like this is a little bit of future VJ looking at himself right
when
there.
He shoots the ball like he did tonight. I see why you're saying that.
Yeah, do you think that is a fair take, or am I getting out of control with that?
I mean, I don't think he'll ever be the player Anthony Edwards is, but that's an incredibly high bar. That's one of the best players in the league. I understand, like, the way he moves and glides around the court athletically, and even comes off ball screens and just attacks the rim with so much aggression downhill. And even like how the way VJ Edgecombe was shooting is kind of similar to how Anthony Edwards steps into some of these pull-up threes. So I get why watching them you would see that, but it's like Anthony Edwards has been compared to Michael Jordan just because of the way he moves and glides and stuff like that, which has always been ridiculous. He'll never be Michael Jordan, but from just a pure aesthetic standpoint, I understand the comparisons.
Yeah, I may or may not have compared VJ Edgecombe to Michael
After
Jordan.
his first game, I recall.
Yeah, I believe that may be true as well. But you got any final thoughts on tonight or the state of the Sixers before we sign off here?
Nothing grand. I mean, tonight was a big win, a desperation win for a team that needed it badly. We'll be back after every show, starting with Tuesday night. Brace was dealing with a ton of Wi-Fi issues tonight. He's in the hotel on City Line Avenue. He's going to be on air with Ray Dunn on 97.5 The Fanatic at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So we only got Brace for a little bit of the show, but he'll be back ready to go on Tuesday, the three-headed monster, and let's roll from here.
Yes, sir. 100% there. So appreciate you guys for rocking with us. Good to have a character win by this Sixers team. Shout out to my guy at 76ers TTB for hanging with us in the comments. For everyone else who did get involved and tune in tonight, make sure you're subscribing wherever you're listening at. Following us all on socials. And for me, Sam, and Sean Brace, we'll be back next time right here on the Sixers Wrap-Up Show.